Welcome back. All right, so news of the day video for all you fine people on the internet. Starting off with the Winnipeg Jets. I'm wearing Winnipeg Jets garb, including the new 47 hat. This is a new set they've released, sort of a retro throwback. So the 75th anniversary, that's the early 90s for that. So anyways, we're going to start off talking about Gabe Vilardi. He's out 4 to 6 weeks for the Winnipeg Jets. It's a sprained MCL for him. This is a blow to the Winnipeg Jets. Gabe Vilardi, of course, acquired in the offseason from the LA Kings in the PL Dubois trade, and could have had a big year coming up. And he may still, once he's returned in 4 to 6 weeks, he may very well have a good run. But he was on that first line. This does mean line juggling will take place. And we'll see how the Winnipeg Jets respond to this. I also wanted to talk about the attendance issue. So I've seen people saying, hey, it's expensive. Yeah, I get that. I totally do. When we had a preseason game here in Abbotsford, just cost-wise, it made no sense. None. For myself to try to take my wife and our kids to a game, it would have cost us when you consider parking and food, because it's not like you can sit kids down in a hockey rink for 2.5 hours and not feed them. And it would have cost us at least $400, if not $500 for the night. And then you don't have a guarantee that you're going to see a win. Plus, the game in Abbotsford, you didn't have a guarantee you were going to get the best Canuck players out there either. And they didn't send the A guys to Abbotsford, which kind of threw me off a bit because normally they do. But at any rate, the cheapest tickets in Winnipeg for their next game tomorrow night at home against Vegas, $53.50. Just for comparison, I looked up for the Canucks next game at home, which is apparently against St. Louis. $63 is the ticket price for that. So the ticket prices, I get it. I totally do. This is also one of the reasons why the National Hockey League, when looking at locations where they want teams to play, they look at big cities. And it's simple. It's not as easy as just saying, well, it's a hockey location. You're looking for approximately 17 to 18,000 people a night, 41 times a year, who will sit down and consume your product. It is easier to find that 17, 18,000 in a bigger city in general. And I understand there are exceptions. I understand there are big cities where it doesn't necessarily work. But it is something to keep an eye on. And again, the cheapest ticket, $53.50. I saw a couple on Ticketmaster for that. I was just going through Ticketmaster. I wasn't going through resale. I've wanted to do videos on ticket prices around the National Hockey League, but I don't want to use the resale. I don't want to. And every time I look up ticket prices in the NHL, it's always, here's what they're going for on the resale market. I don't care. I want to look at the actual Ticketmaster price set for each team and do a comparison that way. And then you get into Canadian dollars versus American dollars. So that's $53.50 Canadian. Well, that's 35% less than what an American ticket's going to be. So with the exchange rate being as it is, and of course, since teams pay in American dollars, this is what makes it really difficult to sell the NHL and the idea of going back to Quebec. Is that, yes, Quebec's a hockey city and they know that, but it is a small market. And at the amount of money you're going to pay for National Hockey League tickets, which is much higher than you're going to pay for Quebec Rampart tickets, there's no certainty in this, right? So that's why this is being brought up as a topic, and it is something to keep an eye on as the season goes. And it is odd that when Florida and Arizona are struggling, that people just say, well, they're not hockey markets, move them. But when a Canadian market is struggling to sell tickets, then there's, well, it's the jobs, it's economy, well, it's the price. Well, doesn't that affect the southern markets as well? Like, again, local economies being as they are, there are economical reasons why maybe somebody in Arizona or Florida wouldn't have the money necessarily for a ticket. So it's a whole part of the debate that we have that's ongoing. Remember, there's revenue sharing in the NHL. So in the case that the Winnipeg Jets don't do very well financially this year, they would receive money from that revenue sharing. All right. That being said, moving along to the next topic, Alex Goligoski's been placed on LTIR by the Minnesota Wild. Sammy Walker has been recalled by the team, so some excitement about Walker getting a chance. And Goligoski and LTIR means he has to be out a minimum of 10 games or 28 days. So hopefully Goligoski's back sooner or later. Sooner rather than later, actually. And Pittsburgh made an interesting move today. Carl Plasek, who they picked up from the Vancouver Canucks in a trade, they've placed him on unconditional waivers to terminate the contract. So why do you do this? Well, A, you do it because a player has no intention of playing in your organization, and, likely Plastic's going to play overseas. But the other reason for this is simple. So you trade out 2 contracts, you bring 2 contracts in, you terminate the contract of Plastic, that opens up a spot for a contract. You have a maximum of 50 contracts you can have at any given point in time. So if you're going to put somebody on unconditional waivers to terminate that contract, that opens up a spot for another contract. So don't be surprised if once he's cleared this, if Pittsburgh then looks to add somebody else on a contract, because they'll have one more roster spot open, or, well, not roster spot, one more contract spot open out of the 50 contracts. I don't think there's anybody at 50 right now. I could be wrong. I think there's a few that might be at 49. I don't think. Last time I looked, I didn't see anybody at 50, and there were plenty. They were in the 45, 46, 47 region. So, speaking of prospects and players who haven't played yet, the NHL, there are a few things they do right. The trade deadline, I think, is pretty solid. Free agency is a lot of fun in the draft. We all love the draft, right? GM goes up to the front, and he announces the player. The player goes up, puts a jersey on, and we get to applaud, and we get to say, hey, isn't that great? Well, the NHL thinks maybe ruining it's a good idea. So they have asked for team opinions on whether or not they want to go to a decentralized model. A decentralized model, which is practiced by other leagues in North America, means the GM, team representatives, don't necessarily go to the draft. They can remotely let Bill Daly know to make those picks. And then the player would still go up, I assume, would still get a jersey and a hat for his troubles. But maybe not. Maybe he just gets a hat, right? So the idea being that this would save some money for the National Hockey League and for their clubs. It might be a more comfortable environment for general managers. But I think the idea of decentralizing the draft is not a good idea. I think that's a terrible idea because, again, watching the draft is this... Really, it's an event. It's been an event for a long time. It's been built up. And I'm old enough to remember when it wasn't. When the draft really wasn't considered a big deal. We would look at who the top prospects were coming out of it. But it's not like we sat around and watched the draft take place. And then it ended up on TV. It made for fascinating TV. And now the idea of not having the draft on TV just seems just weird. It just seems odd. So, we're not looking at not having the draft on TV, but this seems almost as weird, the idea that teams could be in this decentralized location. And again, one of those things that's uniquely National Hockey League is they go up, they have the jersey over their arm. With the number 4 pick in this draft, we select, and the player comes up, you take the jersey, it's already got their nameplate on the back, you put it on, you take the pictures, you do all the media availability, maybe you sit down with the player as the GM, or the head scout sits down with the player, and they talk to the media about what they liked about him and why they picked him. And so I find it weird that something that the NHL has that's done really, really well, that everybody likes, that they're like, could we change it though? It just seems too popular. So, anyways, it's NHL thinking. Patrick Kane, because I know there's a lot of discussion about where Kane's going to go, how much money he's going to get and all that. He is stating he's not having any contract talks until he's cleared to play. So, until he is cleared, medically cleared to play in the National Hockey League, he's not signing a contract. I think that gives him more leverage. I do. I think that if he was trying to sign a contract while he's not medically cleared yet, a team might offer him less money. So it's a matter of him betting on himself a little bit here. And again, as the season's rolling along here, I would imagine there will be no loss of interest in Patrick Kane once he's officially available. There are going to be some teams that get off to slow starts who might see him as a way of fixing that slow start. So we'll see. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.